Okay, it says we're live on YouTube.
Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to our regular meeting of council. We're live streamed tonight electronically. And this is February 16th, 2021. And we'll get into our agenda. But before we start our meeting, I have something very special I'd like to let everybody know about. I have a certificate here in front of me, and this certificate is going to be given to the people next week, but I'd like to read it. It's very, very special. This is on behalf of the Reeve, from the Reeve and Council of the Township of Montague, and it reads, the Reeve and Council of the Township of Montague wish to offer congratulations to Nancy and Earl Weir on the occasion of their 60th wedding anniversary on February the 25th, 2021. I know that Nancy and Earl have been around Montague for a long, long time, and I believe that they also were very, staunch supporters of the Forget-Me-Not Club, and I used to see them there playing a lot of cards. I think they were pretty good at it, so it gives me joy on behalf of the whole council that to congratulate Nancy and Earl on 60 years of their wedding. And this, as I said, this certificate will be passed on to the to Nancy and Earl, I believe, next week. So congratulations, Nancy and Earl. I'm now going to open the meeting, and I'd like to ask everybody to for a moment of silence. But tonight, if you can, when you're having your moment of silence, especially for people who knew this gentleman, I'd like to recognize the passing of a lifelong farmer named Alan Laurie. Alan is Krista Laurie's father, who is the warden of Lanark County. Some of you may know him because, as I said, he was a lifelong farmer, but he also had built that beautiful big barn up on 29 Highway north of Carleton Place, and had built one of the biggest robotic milkers in this area. I read his obituary, and if you read it, you can go to the Barker Funeral Home. It's quite a nice obituary, and I did read part of it, which really struck me, and I'd just like to read 2 sentences about this. How this gentleman thought. He believed that a stranger was simply a friend who you hadn't met yet. If you didn't like someone, that was a sign you needed to get to know and understand them better. And that's how he lived his life. He has many attributes all to do with farming. And I'd like to just recognize him in our moment of silence, please, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Okay, well, we're going to go right into our meeting, and I have a motion. It was moved by Klaus Vandermeer and seconded by Ian Straight. And Christy, sorry, I should mention this to Joanna. Joanna, I did ask you earlier today that if there were any correspondence or any correspondence items moved forward, and you had told me no. But since I read over all of them this afternoon, I would like to mention one myself. So that is going to be 9 M on the broadband program. So this motion was moved by Klaus Vandermeer and seconded by Ian Straight, that the council agree to move items 9M from information items to action items for discussion. And that was moved by Klaus Vandermeer and seconded by Ian Straight. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And also, I believe the next is the motion to for the agenda, and I believe Karen, you have a motion that you're going to be bringing forward a little later in the meeting, and so I will, when I read the motion, I will add as amended, and I would like to suggest that we add that to maybe under the reports of the municipal officers. And we have an A, B, and C, if we can do that regarding under D. Is that okay, Karen and Joanna?
Joanna, you're muted.
Am I muted?
No, Joanna is.
Oh, Joanna. Karen, is
Yeah,
that okay?
sorry, I was just looking at the numbering. That's okay with me.
Karen?
Yep, that's okay.
Okay, that's the addition of 4 more Recreation Committee members. So that's going to be 4D. So I'm going on then. I have a motion here by moved by Karen Jennings and seconded by Jeff Carroll, that the regular meeting of council agenda dated February the 16th, 2021 be approved as circulated and as amended. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I also will remind all of council that if you have any disclosure of interest, you can declare it now or anytime during the meeting. Moving on, I have a motion moved by Ian Straight and seconded by Klaus Vandermeer, that the minutes of the regular meeting of February the 2nd, 2021 be approved as circulated. All in favor? Okay, and that's carried. Is there any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none, we're moving on then. We have no delegations tonight. And the first meeting is going to be the public meeting. I'm going to pass the meeting over to you, Carl. And that's going to be on the Birchall Road, 1804 Birchall Road issue. So, Carl, I'll pass it on to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Did you receive the little the blurb?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I emailed it to you, Bill. You should have it in your email. Probably
When did you email it?
about 5:30.
Oh, sorry.
My apologies.
Okay. If you just give me a moment, please. I don't, sorry, I don't see it. No, I don't see it on my phone here.
Okay, do you want me to go ahead and
Yep.
read that?
Yeah,
Just let
that
me
would be
find
great.
it here.
No, that would be great.
Okay, just let me open it up. So the public meeting, purpose of the public meeting is to consider a proposed zoning bylaw amendment under section 34 of the Planning Act, and it's now open. It should say, I am Bill, who will be chairing this meeting. The application being considered at this time for the property at 1804 Birchall Road. The proposal is to amend the zoning on a portion of the property to accommodate the development of a workshop on the lot. This meeting is your opportunity to provide any feedback on this proposal, and we encourage you to do so as the Planning Act rules suggest that the public's ability to voice objections later in the process may be limited if they don't either sign in or speak up at the meeting. I will now pass this meeting over to our planner, Carl Granke, to report on notification and to summarize the application. Following that, we will open the floor to comments from those in attendance and then discussion by council members.
Thank you, Joanna. Can you try sending that to me again?
I will.
Thanks. Okay, Carl, thank you.
Thank you. We have a PowerPoint presentation. So while that's getting teed up, I'd like to introduce myself as the township planner and welcome everybody to this public meeting. I have a PowerPoint presentation summarizing the application and the notification. But first, you'll notice on your agenda that there's a little bit more detail on the proposal and what's being and the purpose of what we're doing this evening in the planning information report. So for those who are watching from home, there's a little bit more information about the proposal. The applicants have also joined us this evening as well, and they can if there's questions from council or from anybody about the nature of the business and a little bit more details about their plans, they will be available to answer any questions.
Sorry, Carl, I'm just getting it open here.
I did read the whole report, Carl. I just didn't get the preamble for the public meeting.
I sent that a little later this afternoon, so I apologize for that.
Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you. So this is a proposed a public meeting for a rural special exception zone at 1804 Birchall Road. Next slide, please. So 1804 Birchall Road is a large property. It's about 67 acres. It's heavily forested, includes some non-evaluated wetland, and there's currently a house basically at the very front, closest to the road. It's about a couple kilometers south of Roger Stevens Road, and you can see that it is an L-shaped parcel. But the area that we're looking at this evening is in the cleared area at the very, very front of the lot. Next slide, please. So the property owner, Mr. Dugas, owns Air Impressions. It's a fabrication business, fabricating hardwood floor register vents, and he's looking to relocate his business to his own property there on Birchall Road. So what he's proposing to do is construct a 3,000 square foot building to contain all operations and all storage of materials. So the business currently has 2 employees, and the applicants advise that delivery of the materials happens once a month, and the product is usually shipped by courier. So what's happening now does not create a considerable volume of customer traffic, for instance. So the proposed development is located close to the existing house. The planning information report includes a site sketch showing the overall concept. So this is a type of use that is not currently permitted in the rural zoning. So the rural zone applies for the entire property, and the applicant has applied to rezone a small portion of it to accommodate the business. And it was accompanied, the planning application was accompanied by a planning justification report prepared by Tracy Zander at Zander Plan. So the official plan designates the property and surroundings as rural, and the rural designation is sort of it's our broadest designation that accommodates a broad range of development in the municipality, including rural, including residential, but also accommodates agriculture, commercial, and industrial land uses. But there are certain evaluation criteria that need to be met before we can allow an industrial land use. And that's going to be discussed in a subsequent report following this public meeting. So what's being proposed here is a rural special exception zone applying to a small, less than an acre portion of the property, and that's to allow a Class 1 industrial use as a permitted use. So in this case, Class 1 is defined as the lowest intensity industrial use according to D6 guidelines, and that speaks to the intensity of the size, the intensity of noise, vibration, dust, all of the other environmental factors associated with industrial. So that's the proposed. So that's what the application is seeking. It's not seeking specifically this business, but just a range of sort of the lower intensity and industrial uses. So the remainder of the property is not subject to this application, would retain its rural zoning and not proposed for any development. Next slide, please. So the development area on the property is, well, certainly the pictures there are taken from the driveway, but the property itself is fairly screened from the road. There's some vegetation along the road allowance there, and obviously the rear end of the property is heavily vegetated. It's a fairly straight road, though it does curve to the south of Birch Hill Road. Traffic, from my experience, is fairly minimal, and that was not identified as a significant concern when the previous public works manager was looking at this concept initially. Next slide, please. So in this case, what we have before us is a proposal to change the rules for the area, change the land use rules for the area of land. And ultimately that's up to council to make that decision. But before council can decide on the appropriateness of changing the land use rules, we need to hear from those who would be impacted the most, and that includes the neighbors. It's also an opportunity for a bit of back and forth and engagement. It's an opportunity for the applicants to present their proposal, for the public to provide comments, and there's been some very good public meetings where there's been a lot of back and forth that's been helpful for everybody. So we don't have a recommendation, staff don't have a recommendation this evening, and council won't be making a decision on this application, but the comments and the feedback that we do receive will be evaluated and considered by staff and brought forward at a later date. And there's certainly questions that may arise that I don't have the answer to at this point, and that's what I'm going to be going and getting for council at the next meeting if that does arise. And council ultimately will be making the decision based on all of the information provided. Next slide, please. So the consultation for zoning amendments is done as prescribed by the Planning Act, and that includes the notification of neighbors within 400 feet of the property. In this case, that's a fairly small number. These are fairly large lots, so not too many neighbors got the notice in the mail. We also notify applicable public agencies and post a notice on site. It's an opportunity for all interested persons and agencies to provide written or verbal submissions to council before a decision is made. Next slide, please. So when we do have a zoning amendment application, council's decision has to comply with our planning policies, and that includes the official plan. That's our policy guide outlining how we want to see the township grow and develop. And the official plan has been written to meet the higher level provincial policy statement. So the provincial policy statement has been updated since 2020. So we have to make sure that this application is consistent with that, but it's a fairly high level document. I think the most important policies for us to look at are within our official plan. And ultimately neighbors have the local expertise that's very important for council's consideration. So we look at feedback, and then consideration of feedback from other agencies, legislative mandates, technical expertise, and then staff will be bringing forward a recommendation to council. Next slide, please. So at this point, following the public meeting, we will review any comments, written or verbal comments received, and there will be a recommendation brought forward to council, and council can give direction on whether they support the application as presented, suggest modifications to the application, or not support the application at all. So and whatever council's decision is, it is subject to a 20-day appeal period, and that's built into to the Planning Act. So I think the virtual meetings, we've done a few of these now, and certainly they present some opportunities for people to get engaged when they may not have, but they're also challenging too, and we very much welcome and appreciate anybody who does want to speak and would like to make themselves known to council before council makes the decision here. So I'd like to remind anybody who would like to be notified of council's decision to please let our clerk's office know, or alternatively within the next before council decides, feel free to send Joanna or myself an email if you have comments that you'd like to provide but aren't able to this evening. So this isn't your last kick at the can. You will have an opportunity to provide feedback afterwards, and that will be provided to council in the recommendation. So I will defer back to the chair to proceed with the meeting.
Thank you, Carl. And just so again to remind everybody that no decision is going to be made tonight, but it's also to reiterate what you just said, Carl. It's very important for the public to make sure to let our staff know as soon as possible. If you do want to make any comments, you have questions, and then you'll be notified. And also after we go through this, there will be still a 21 day, 20 or 21 day, which is it, Carl?
20
day time period. So I guess technology is not working this afternoon for me. The last email I got today on my phone here is at 3:02, but I didn't get anything from you, Joanna. So I think I'm going to have to let you read the next section. I think I can't remember the process, but I think maybe that we ask if the proponents want to speak, but if you don't mind, you'll have to do this for me, please.
Sorry, guys, I'm used to having a couple of screens, so I'm just bouncing back and forth here. So it says, we now invite any comments or submissions regarding this application from members of the public. When speaking, please be advised that comments provided do form part of the public record, and as such, we ask that you please state your name and address. You may also submit comments in writing prior to council's decision on the proposed zoning bylaw. Council will first hear from members of the public who wish to speak to this application, and then from the applicants for any concluding remarks they may have. Following that, we will entertain questions from council members. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak to this application? I haven't had any emails. Christy, do you have anything?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay, and then we can hear from the applicants if they have any closing remarks or comments. And I believe they are with us, but it looks like trying to connect to the audio.
Joanna, did you say that the proponent is trying to connect?
That's what it looks like on my screen anyways. Renee and W. Dugas are both here, but I can't, one just says connecting to audio. I don't know what it says on your screens. Does anyone?
Yeah.
The same.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes.
You can hear me now. This is Rennie Dugas.
Hi, Renee.
Hi.
We're just calling if you have any comments and closing remarks.
Not at the moment.
Okay. We had no questions from the public either. And the next part of our meeting is going to, the next part of this public meeting is we're going to, I believe, Joanna, I'll go back to you, but I believe it's for the questions from council.
Okay.
So we'll open this up to any questions from any council members. Karen?
Just a question on the delivery of your material, how often, and then the weight of the truck that goes down Birchall Road.
I do get a transport truck, I'd say once every 3 months, because I do have some clients to the US and they order by skids. But their orders are about once every 3 months. Otherwise, my raw material suppliers, they deliver material once a month. And it's not a transport truck. I think it's a 5-ton truck, maybe.
Okay.
Any other questions? Jeff?
First of all, thanks, Renee. I mean, I think this is great when we see people wanting to do businesses out of their home. I think this is, what we want to encourage in our township. So I look forward to this process with you, and I hope this goes well. One quick question. I'm curious do you plan on having any type of retail thoughts out of your shop? Or are you really a kind of make by demand and send out when you make it?
No, I'm strictly manufacturing.
Okay.
I don't plan on doing any retailing because it will affect my distributors.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I will run into conflict.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you. That's all thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from council? Seeing none then, Renee, also congratulations. And this is exciting news, I think, for all of us. And we certainly look forward to the next steps. And I also want to thank Carl for presenting this report to us for the public meeting. It was really clear and well done. So congratulations to you for bringing this to Montague. So Joanne, I'm just going to go back to you again. If you could read the rest of it, please.
Yeah, just a second here.
I still haven't
Okay.
seen anything come through here on my phone, so I'm not sure what's happening.
Yeah, it must not be working. I sent it at 5:36 and then 6, whatever time I just sent it. But anyways, that's okay.
Anyways, you're doing a great job for me. Thanks.
So the closing remarks. Thank you. This matter will be considered at the next available committee of the whole meeting. Anyone wishing further notice and/or notice of the decision regarding this proposal is asked to leave their full name and address, I guess, to my email address, jralph@township.montague.on.ca. Under the Planning Act, any person or body who is not satisfied with the decision of council may appeal council decision to the local planning appeals tribunal. The last day for filing an appeal will be outlined in the notice of decision. Council will consider all information presented before reaching a decision. And we will now adjourn the public meeting regarding this application.
Thanks, Joanna. So this part of the meeting, public meeting, is now adjourned. So we'll look forward to the next steps. And thanks to everybody. I do have a motion here that was moved by Klaus Vandermeer and seconded by Ian Straight, that council receive the following report. That is the 1804 Birchall Road report, and that the following be approved, that council receive comments on the zoning application. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So we're moving on to the next part of our meeting. The public meeting is now adjourned, as I said, and we're going to go straight into the first report of the municipal officers, and that is going to be yours, Andrew. Our treasurer, Andrew Hodge, is bringing us this first report, and that's on the Development Charge Reserve Fund.
Okay, so just once, I think we lost Karen.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
Where'd you go? Has she gone completely?
yeah, we'll just give it a minute to see if she's going to probably let somebody know.
Bill, while we're at it, I'm looking at the minute, so hopefully it's not wrong, but I actually had the resolution for partners in climate protection. Did I have that in the wrong order somehow?
You have it as 4C.
Okay, sorry. I must have just dropped it in the wrong spot. I'll move that down.
Okay. Does somebody have Karen's phone number?
Oh, yeah.
They can,
I'll give her a call.
thanks. Maybe the snowfall is causing havoc tonight.
Cause a lot of havoc all day.
Kind of like the Senators with the Leafs last night. A little bit of havoc there.
So now Karen, I see Karen is connecting.
Heck,
Hi, Karen.
it was just gone.
Okay, so Karen, we're just going to our very first report of the municipal officers, and that's going to be Andrews on the development charge reserve fund, okay? So back to you, Andrew, thank you.
All right, thank you. So this report is a report for information, and it's the 2020 Development Charges Reserve Fund Statement. And the recommendation is that council accepts the report for information. This is done, it's a requirement and it's done annually. So we've prepared it for the end of the year. The information, the summary is attached as Appendix 1. And it breaks out the revenues received by the township through development charges and how those funds were dispersed, and the subtotal at the bottom remaining, which you would recognize from where we carry on in our 2021 budgeting process. So anyways, that report's here for information, and if there's any questions, I can address those.
Karen?
So I see that we started the year in a negative and we're ending the year in a more negative, a higher negative.
No, if the totals are on the right, so we started the year with 17,427.07.
Sorry, just under the roads and related.
Yes. Yeah, and then that will work itself out through 2021 is the idea. There'll be more in our development charges budget that brings that back. We did a similar thing last year as well with the amounts used for Matheson Drive. And I'd spoken to the auditors at that time, and they had said that to do that temporarily should be okay.
Can I ask then, on our projection budget for 2021, are we going to be pulling again out of development to continue the year out again in the negative under roads? Like, I'm not sure what we were funding out of the development, sorry.
Yeah, I don't have that one in front of me, but
You just shoot me an email, it's fine.
sure, I can follow up.
If you could let us all know, sorry, but yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you for this good, clear report again, Andrew. We do have a motion here. It was moved by Ian Straight, seconded by Klaus Vandermeer, that the council receive the Development Charge Reserve Fund report and that the following be approved. The council accepts the report for information. All in favor? Thank you. Moving on, the next one is also yours, Andrew, and that's on the 20, on the agenda, it should be 2021, yeah, 2021. No, I guess it's 2020 remuneration and expenses. So Andrew, that's yours.
Yeah, that's 2020. So this report is also for information, and it's a statement of remuneration and expenses for 2020. It is a requirement. It refers there and explains it under section 284(1), the Municipal Act, and the information is laid out in Appendix 1 as an attachment, and it shows members of council and also members of committees and boards and amounts that would have been paid during 2020, and also related benefits or expenses that relate to specific councillors or committee and board members. And probably the most noticeable thing is that in 2020 with COVID-19 situation, and there was far less activity in the committees and boards. So you see a lot of lines there without information because they're based on multiples of activity, and there was no activity. So that will probably pick up again in 2021, hopefully later throughout the year.
Thank you, Andrew. Any questions? See none, we're moving on. This motion was moved by Karen Jennings and seconded by Jeff Carroll. The council received the following report. That's the 20, I have to change this on the resolution here. 2020 remuneration and expenses, and that the following be approved. The council accepts the report for information. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks.
And moving on, the next one is yours, Joanna, and that's on the resolution for Partners for Climate Protection.
Yeah, thank you. And I did put this on there as the resolution. It did get sent to us, and I know we had talked about it, but I just went back and just checked in the minutes of the last meeting. We actually did not have a resolution to bring this forward. So it was just a receive for information only. And I think we discussed it, but we never did actually have a recommendation to bring that forward. So I think that should probably, just to follow procedure, we should probably pull that. And if you want to make a motion about it, we can do that. But that was my apologies. We talked about it and I kind of assumed we were doing it, but when I went back, there's no motion to actually bring it forward. So I'll look to you folks as to how you would like to proceed.
Yeah, I do have a motion here that that is on the agenda, but first I'll go to you, Karen.
I'd like to have a discussion about it before we have the motion or resolution, because of the fact that, like, the commitment for it, like, does staff have the time to deal with that right now? Because I know it says, you know, you've got to have every 2 years a report and everything, which is fine, but just looking to say, perhaps it's something we need to look at in the future, because we need to know how we're going to staff it and who's going to be on it with council, et cetera. So I think we need to have those discussions before we pass this. So we bring it back to have conversation.
Okay, Ian?
Yeah, I too agree with Karen. I think there might be a little bit more to this than we understand maybe. And I definitely want to make sure that we understand how much this might cost us at the end of the day. So I'd like to put a motion forward that we bring it back to a committee of the whole meeting sometime in the future when staff have an appropriate amount of time to get all the details prepared for it, and then we can have a open discussion regarding it.
Is there a seconder for this? Seconded by Jeff. Before we vote on this, I'll go to you, Claus.
Thank you, Ray. Joanna, have you looked into with the county how much work is involved in this? Have you had a chance to?
Well, I mean, to Karen's point, I have not had the opportunity to do it. I had attended a meeting a couple of years ago or a year ago about this. I think it's a really good initiative. It's a fair point about staff time. Something that certainly I think we'd all be interested in, but there should be some discussion about, you know, who would be the ones sitting on these committees and the time that would be required. So I certainly don't mind going back and looking into that a little bit further.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions then on this? So Ian, can you just repeat so that everybody is clear what your resolution was?
I'd just like to defer this topic to a committee of the whole meeting at some point in time in the future. I'm not just specifying a date. I'll let the staff do that when they feel they have enough time to take care of all the research and everything that else is behind it.
So I guess this gets a suggestion to you, Ian, because you're making the resolution, and to all of council. Then we have a resolution in front of us which is on the agenda, and it's quite long. You've probably all read it. And I'd rather not have to read the whole thing, but I will if you want me to. But if it's fine with you, Ian, if we just bring this, I will bring this motion forward with the mover and seconder that we had. And then we will vote on it, and we'll just, I think we can at that time, we can just, instead of voting on it, defeating it or voting on it, we can just ask for it at that time to be deferred. Is that okay, Ian?
That's fine by me. Yep.
Okay, so this motion that we have on the agenda, it's just, I think, the proper way when it's on the agenda that we have to deal with it.
Sure.
Also. So this motion was moved by Jeff Carroll and seconded by Karen Jennings, and you've all read it. And I'm going to ask then, right now, Ian, you're asking to have it deferred. Is all in favor of it being deferred? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. And I guess also, Joanna, as far as, I guess the obvious question is to try to get a handle on the amount of time involved, but also the cost. But it's not just the cost, but it's also the benefits, because I read quite a bit about this, and you know, there's an awful lot of costs. And there's also a lot of benefits. And if we get involved with this, then there's also funding benefits. So it's a pretty important piece of information. So I think it's a good idea so that we all have a complete understanding of it. But the costs, the benefits, and the time involved, I guess those would be the three items that we need to look back. And I think that we've got, I'd like to ask to do it the proper way also. Then I'm just going to get consensus for staff direction for you to look into this and come back with a report. So if we have, just go around the table to get this consensus. So Jeff?
Yep.
And Claus?
Yes.
And Ian?
Yep.
And Karen?
Yes.
We have consensus, and I'd like also, if council have any further questions for Joanna that are pertinent to this information or this issue, please pass them on. And I think that we'll just, this has been deferred until a future committee of the whole meeting. So thanks for that. Then we're going to move on. The next resolution is going to be yours. Karen, you brought this forward. So I have the resolution here. Do you want me just to read it first and then we can have a discussion on it?
Sure.
Okay. So this resolution that I have here in front of me was moved by Karen Jennings and seconded by Jeff Carroll, that council approve the addition of 4 more Recreation Committee members in order to ensure that appropriate coverage is provided when current members are unable to attend due to vacation or illness, and to ensure that members of the public are represented at least equivalently with the number of representatives on council or on past councils. That council would like to ensure that burnout of volunteers does not become an issue, and hopes to increase interest in all committees, not just the Recreation Committee. That council would like to note that this request is not a poor reflection of any existing committees, but merely a suggestion to help current members. Whereas council would like to see the appointment of a president, co-chair, secretary, and treasurer positions for the Recreation Committee and all committees where required. So we'll vote on that after we have any discussion. I'd like to make a couple of quick comments and then I'll open it up. I would request this Karen and Jeff, as you were the mover and seconder, if we could possibly change a couple things. In the last whereas paragraph, where we have president and co-chair, generally speaking with committees, we have chairs and co-chairs.
Okay.
And my thought is that, like, if you have a president, then you should have a vice president, or if you have a chair, you should have a vice chair. So
Yep.
I would suggest that we would amend that resolution to read chair and co-chair, which
Okay.
is a great idea. And then the secretary, I'd like to open it up to council, but I do have an issue with, I don't, it's just my opinion that I don't feel that we need to have a treasurer, because in the past, I think already at least once, the Recreation Committee asked council to approve, I believe it was $500 for projects that they were dealing with at the time, around the Christmas time, I believe it was, and there was no problem. And then the receipts and everything comes back to our treasurer, who we have as Andrew. And so I believe that it would work just fine like that. But again, I'm going to open it up, but it also then, so I'm only asking to change the chair and vice chair, but then maybe to delete the treasurer if that's what the council wishes. So I'm going to open it up to council, to any questions. I have Ian, you first.
Yeah, I agree with the chair co-chair thing, Reed. That's not a problem for me. The treasurer thing, I think that we should have a treasurer. And the reason why is that hopefully at the end of the day, the recreation committee is a standalone committee that doesn't need a whole bunch of funds from the township. And if they do need funds for something, then that's what they ask for, and it goes towards a specific project. You know, the committee and the monthly program committee that's you know, chaired by Val and Maggie have a lot of great ideas that we're hopefully going to bring forward here as things continue to open up, and cross our fingers that that's the case. And as they do, those activities that are going to be occurring at the hall are going to be fee-based, obviously, for a good portion of them, hopefully. And you know, somebody needs to take care of that money and track where that money goes, and they should really go in their own separate fund that they can use for events down the road.
Yes, I was just basing my comments on all of the committees that I have ever sat on, including quite a few different committees at the county level. I'll give you an example: the OVRT committees, the trail committees, and so on, where there's lots of money spent, but there's no treasurers. The money is approved by council and goes back to is given out. But that's what I was basing my my comments on. So I'm going to go to Jeff and then to Karen.
Thanks, Reeve. I think this is great. I mean, I'd love to add more people to our rec committee and see if we can take the next step, especially when things start to open up a little bit. It's obviously a little bit discouraging to the rec committee, as it was hard to do anything with COVID. But I mean, kudos on the Christmas parade. So great. I think so. If we can add more people, I think we've always said we're open to add more people at any time. So this is good if we can advertise it more. And I agree in the sense of, you know, having obviously the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary. I think we need to get it set up a little bit more on standalone. I think that'd be good, and a few more members might help us do that. I am on that side of the treasurer side. I like it being managed at home. I'm going to say per se with the township and with Andrew and under Andrew. I mean, council, we have money. Obviously we'll approve it to go forward with if the rec committee wants to use it. But I think it's good for it to be sort of reconciled back with the township. And I would assume, you know, that's kind of how it works in municipalities that have like rec services and everything else, that it's kind of reconciled back with the treasurer. But anyways, I kind of on that side too as well. And I'd rather that money, it might be better if the money is sort of kept out of that, so we don't have any issues that, because I don't want anybody to have to deal with something that's unfounded. If we do have a treasurer, it might be easier if we just let the treasurer of the township do it. So thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to go to Karen and then to Claus. Karen?
So to clarify, it's not to take away from the municipal treasurer, it's the treasurer of a function. So for example, when you have activities going on and there is a fee-based, that person is there to collect the money, for example, versus just having the president collecting, having the vice president collecting, having the secretary. It's one person designated to collect the money for the door fees or whatever. And then that money then goes to Andrew for the deposits into the recreation lines that have been created in the budget. So that's the intent, is to have that person being the keeper of the money that comes in for the function, and then they in turn ensure that it gets to Andrew. As I said, it's just so that you don't have multiple people trying to look after the finance side. So it's not taking it away from the municipality still doing the reconciliations into the accounts and stuff. It's just somebody has to collect it. Like when we did the breakfast with Santa, etc., I was the one that sat and took the funds at the door. This is just designating a body to be responsible for that sort of thing versus just anybody sitting down.
Yeah, I was going to, thanks, Karen. I was going to mention that when we did the, when the council did the breakfast with Santa, we did all of that with, without an actual treasurer nominated,
Correct.
but and then each one of us, if we spent any money, which
Yep.
several of us did, then
Yep.
we just gave the receipt back to our treasurer and was
Correct.
remunerated.
Yep.
So it worked perfect. But again, I would have hoped that a member of the recreation committee would do just what you did. You looked after it, did a good job. Everything was fine. So I would suspect, especially when we add 4 more, and I'm fully in favor of adding 4 more people. I think it's great that one of those people could look after the finances. But I'm going to go to Claus, and then I think maybe I saw Ian, but Claus next.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Reeve. I echo what Jeff Carroll just said. It's great to have more members, and I know he's mentioned that many times. Even when certain people applied for other positions on the township, we encourage them to say, would you be interested in this committee and so forth. I think what we need to take a look at is the meaning of the word treasurer means someone who's in charge of the finances of the organization. And if you have an official treasurer, that means you have a bank account, that means you have signing officers on that account, and so forth. And I think it just opens up the door to a whole lot more paperwork. But Karen, I do agree with what you're trying to say. So maybe rather than calling it a treasurer, just a person in charge of the money. A bookkeeper. You can call it a bookkeeper if you want, but the word treasurer just opens up the door to say, where's your bank account? Where's your, we don't want to get into an auditing situation with you people at all, because we trust every one of you. So if you want to change it to, a person on your committee would be the bookkeeper. I don't have a problem with that, but I think the word treasurer just opens up the door to a lot of explanation you may have to do. You wish you didn't want to do. Other than that, adding more members, I think, is great because burnout is so common.
Do we need, this question is to council, all of council, do we need to, in this resolution, do we need to specify bookkeeper or any other wording? I feel that the recreation committee can appoint their own bookkeeper from year to year. I don't really feel that we have to have it in this motion, but that's just my opinion. So I'll go to you, Ian, and then we'll get consensus for this motion. So Ian, please.
So I guess I have a bit of a question. Is the rec committee goes out and they do a cooking class at Rosedale Hall? Where's that money go? Does it go into a fund for the recreation committee, or is it going in the municipality coffers? That's a question.
I guess the bookkeeper would keep that, would look after that.
No, you're telling me right now that it goes back to Andrew, and Andrew's going to take care of it, and he's going to go and deposit the money at the bank, and he's going to do all the stuff. So that's what we want to do.
Okay, Karen?
Because we should have separate accounts created in the recreation line for their activities. So you're going to have, you're going to have a category of revenues and expenses of the different things that you're looking to do, is my interpretation of when this rec committee moves forward with all the great ideas that they've got.
Okay, so here's my next question. If I could just follow up, Reed, that's all right?
Yeah.
So the rec committee's got a band at Rosedale Hall and it costs $1,800. And they're doing a barbecue and they run out of hamburgers. And who's going to where's all this money coming from for someone to go and get supplies all the time? Because that's what happens. I've done lots of these things. So all of a sudden in the middle of something or at the very start of something, somebody's got to drop $2,000 or $3,000 out of their pocket to get things rolling here. And then what happens when you're in the middle of the event? If somebody isn't taking care of the money and watching it and everything else, or if they need more and they run out. Are we expecting people from the recreation committee to pay out of their own pocket to go and get hamburgers at the independent grocer because they ran out of ground beef? Is that what we're saying?
Claus?
Yeah, thank you, Reed. Just to answer Councillor Straight's questions, I don't see any reason why we can't have, as Karen said, a line item that any funds coming from the Recreation Committee goes into the Recreation Committee fund. That it's earmarked and it's set aside, it's theirs, okay? We could set up, to answer Councillor Straight's other question, we could set up account charges. We have those already with the garden market. We can set them up with various vendors within town, so nobody has to put it out of the pocket. We did that with the Breakfast with Santa. We had an account set up with the garden market and we needed more items and we just went and got them, and the items was left over, we just took them back and we turned all the receipts over to Andrew. I think we can streamline this quite nicely. And I come back to what I said before. I'm just concerned if you have a treasurer, you're going to have your own set of books, signing officers. It just makes it very complicated.
Okay, I'm just going to try to get some consensus here. First of all, with this motion, Karen, I will go to you, but I do feel that I think everybody has spoken positively about the last paragraph, whereas council would like to see the appointment of a chair and a vice chair and secretary. And the only thing that we need consensus on is we just drop the rest and treasurer position. So I'm going to go to you, Karen, and then we'll ask for consensus for that. Karen?
So in following up what Klaus was saying about getting people designated to an account, this is why we would designate certain people, not everybody. You would have certain people who then
Yep.
had the ability to go in charge. So if you put titles to it, to those people perhaps, that's what I was just going to comment on.
So Karen, like if you, so would the recreation committee themselves just appoint that person?
But they'll appoint each one of these positions, the president, the chair, co-chair, secretary, and bookkeeper, or whatever title you want to give them. It was just trying to put one person sort of instead of everybody in charge of all the revenues when they're doing things. I mean, it was just somebody has to be responsible for collecting the funds and then giving them to the township to get them put into the bank account to deal with their ins and outs of all the revenues and expenses.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, if that part of it couldn't be left up to the recreation committee themselves, because you may have 3 different projects, and the recreation committee may want to appoint a different person for each of the projects to look after the all of the money, or be the bookkeeper, you might say, of each project.
No.
I think it's not consistent though.
Okay, so I guess then we'll have, I just wanted to try to get consensus here for the rest of this motion here. Jeff?
Just real quick, because I understand, like I get where Bill's coming from, because the problem is like, say, with the recreation committee, you know, we want to have all these members, which is fantastic, but say like this person wants to run a painting thing at Rosedale Hall. Well, like if A, B, and C are doing that, but D is the person we've designated as your bookkeeper, and D is not interested in doing that, they're going to be doing something else. It's those three people that have decided to do that painting class, or they're running it. They're going to figure out, okay, well, who's going to be the money person for that event. I understand that side of it, because the idea of the recreation committee is everybody might not be doing everything all together at once. Like there's going to be different groups or different people that are interested in doing different things. So I mean, it's hard to have a single money person if there's going to be different events run by different people in the future. That's why I get that side of it, where it's like you need to have someone who's in charge of the money for this event. You are, okay, perfect.
So the question goes back to the resolution. Then how do we word that? We've got so far the chair, the co-chair, and the secretary. Do we add anything, or do we leave it for now up to the recreation committee to come up with? Maybe they could have the next time you have your meeting, it could be discussed and still come back to council. Joanna?
I was just gonna say maybe and bookkeepers as required, like plural bookkeepers as required.
So that's the suggestion. I'm going to ask Karen and Jeff if that's fine with them.
Good for me.
I'm fine.
Okay, so I'm just going to change this and bookkeepers as required. Sorry, I'm printing a little slow these days. Okay, so I'm not going to read the whole motion, but the last part I'll read. Whereas council would like to see the appointment of a chair, a co-chair, secretary, and bookkeepers as required. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, this is carried.
I'd like to also note something, Reeve. You know, we talked about setting stuff up, and it's
Yeah,
not to set
sorry,
up-
just one second, Ian,
Go ahead.
please. Yeah, I was just going to say, I think really the most important part of this resolution is the fact that we're going to hopefully be able to add 4 more interested residents onto our recreation committee. And we're all hoping that COVID gets over with sooner than later, and the committee can get on with the business of recreation in Montague. So I think we all should be really positive and excited about this. And I'm glad that we've passed this resolution. So Ian, please.
I guess my only concern is the way that we do this right now. And we talked about setting up businesses. I hope there's a fair amount of businesses within the town that will allow us to go on and get stuff on account. That's the thing. Our whole, especially something that's supported by our township, we should be supporting all businesses within the town or within our neighborhood as much as we possibly can. And I don't know that the way that we're doing it right now is going to allow us to do so.
And also to go along with that, hopefully, Ian, that when the recreation committee is organizing and planning a project, they're going to know what it's going to cost. And as what happened in the past, which was no problem, the recreation committee comes to council and requests the funding, and it was done. So hopefully it'll work just fine. But I understand what you're saying, and this like once the recreation committee gets into it and gets organizing more and more projects, nothing's cut in stone. Everything can be changed in the future if wishes. So I think we're going to move on now, but thanks everybody for this discussion, because I think it was important, and I'm pretty excited about it. And I just can't wait to get to see some of the other projects coming forward. So thanks everybody for that. We're going to move on to the reports of the committees. And the first one was I have a motion here, and that was moved by Claus Vandermeer and second by Ian Straight, that the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of February the 2nd, 2021, and the special meeting of Committee of the Whole, February 16th, 2021, be approved as circulated. All in favor? Opposed? Sorry, all in favor? Okay, that's carried. And I'll go, is there any business arising from those minutes? Okay, seeing none. The next on the agenda we have here is the library board minutes. And I know they were on the agenda and I'm sure everybody's read them. But I don't have a resolution for that, Joanna, and I'm just wondering if we could, I can sign it later, if we could have, first of all, if there's any, are there any questions and comments on the library board minutes? Jeff?
I know the library board, I actually just got a message from our rep from the library board too as well, because they just had another one of their library meetings, and I know they want to come and talk to us too as well as a group. So I just gonna ask Joanna, can you reach out to Sarah Lynn too as well and see what she would like to do as far as coming to talk to us.
Yeah.
Another big thing with the library for Smiths Falls.
Jeff, excuse me, Jeff.
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting, Jeff.
Yeah.
I'll come back to you in a minute. If we can just deal with the library board minutes, because these are the library board minutes for the Merrickville Library.
That's for Merrickville. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, I'd like to just deal with that first. If we have any questions and comments or anything about those minutes, and if not, I see none. Joanna, can we, I'd just like to ask for a mover and seconder to receive these minutes for information. So if I can get a mover and seconder, moved by Claus and seconded by Karen, that we receive the library board minutes for information. All in favor? Okay, and that's carried. Thank you. And Jeff, although it's not in, if you can just keep that brief, I think you've got a good question there, and it's not on the agenda, but if you can just express that sort of simply, so we don't get into a discussion right now. It should be on the next meeting, but go ahead, Jeff, please.
Yeah, and I don't, sorry, and you're right. I guess it kind of, just because that spurred what I was reading about what I got it, because the other thing too, as well as is just real quick, the Smiths Falls Library is Karen, who's the head librarian there, is she's retiring too as well. So they're in a very in a hunt to try to find somebody too as well. So I want to, I'm sure they want to get the word out as much as they can as far as trying to find a replacement for that too as well. And there's some other things that are going to come up from that library too as well. But I'm hoping that we can get a sort of a delegation with them too as well. And if we just want to, I'm just asking staff just to reach out to Sarah Lynn and just to start that if we can.
Maybe if I could suggest, Jeff, because Sarah Lynn has sent you the email, I think it would be very, very simple if you just got back to her and asked her to get a hold of our clerk or Joanna and to come and do a delegation at the next meeting.
She has got a hold of me. I just have not responded yet.
Okay.
So that's on my list of things to do, and I will get back to her hopefully in the near future.
So Jeff,
thanks
I
for
think it's
reminding
all
us.
in the works.
I'll have a chat with her tomorrow. It's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for bringing that up.
Thanks.
So moving on to the next report of our committee, and that's going to be yours, Joanna. That's on the Emergency Operations Committee. Thanks, Joanna.
So I just want to briefly go over this. I think you're all aware of it. I just want to go over it before we get into this discussion, if there is one. I don't know when, because I wasn't around for it, but at some point, council created a bylaw to create an EOC, and the EOC does act under the power of the province. So I just sort of wanted to remind that. So, the stuff that we bring to council is sort of for information only. And, it's done by consensus. So the decision that's made can't be altered by council. But certainly you're free to answer questions. So I just wanted to clarify that right at the start. But I just wanted to let you know we had our EOC meeting, and for the present time, it was determined that we were going to leave the offices closed. There was a number of reasons for that. The first being that we hadn't, unless anyone else has heard complaints, we certainly have not heard any complaints from any member of the public to date about being closed. We had sort of been hearing information on the news about a potential third wave of COVID with the new variants. So we were concerned about that. It's a small staff, and we are keeping all the procedures, keeping distance, masks, sort of keeping to our own offices. All those policies and procedures are in place, and staff is doing an admirable job in doing that. But on the off chance that we did, one of us did get something, it could potentially go through pretty quickly. And, we don't want fire or public works or anybody else infected. So we're just trying to take maybe precautions to do that. And, we had considered certainly reopening. We did speak to various municipalities. I know Beckwith is closed till the 28th. Smith Falls has opened some of their buildings, but their office buildings, I believe, from my understanding, remain closed. Tay Valley and Drummond are open to the public, just 2 at a time, and in the lobby only. So there's various ways that different places have been dealing with it. This is the path we chose this time, and of course, as we get more information, we can come back and have meetings as we tend to do quite often. So I had another point and I've lost it right now, but I'll open that up for. I just bring this for information, but I know there were several people who maybe wanted to make some comments on that. So just opening that up so that the committee can consider your comments the next time we meet.
And just to let everybody know, sometimes when we have these meetings, and they're chaired by our chief, Miles Greer, sometimes these meetings only have to last 10 or 15 minutes because they are official meetings, but they don't take very much time. And so I would suspect that before the 28th, that our chair, Miles, will be calling another meeting and making a decision there. Just wanted to let everybody know that. So if I don't see any questions, Joanna, again, I don't have a resolution here, but I'd like, because this is a verbal report, I'd like to just ask if we can get a mover and seconder to receive this report, this verbal report for information. So if I can get a mover and seconder, please.
I have a question.
Oh, yeah.
Will we receive as council a written report like we used to for these meetings?
Oh, my apologies. You're just looking for the minutes of the meeting? Yes,
Yeah,
I can send that.
We
And
send them out right after the meeting. So that, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'll look into that and I'll send that out. They are, sorry, I just had a message here. The minutes are available on our website, but I can forward them to council as well.
Okay, thanks, Karen. Seeing no other further questions, can I have a mover and second for this verbal report, please? Moved by Claus, seconded by Jeff. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, so this one, that one is carried. And I'll have to sign that one later also. Joanna, please. Okay, thank you. We have no petitions, and we're going to go straight into the bylaws. And I'm happy to get them here. The first bylaw was moved by Ian Straight and seconded by Klaus Vandermeer. That bylaw 3813/2021 being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with the Rideau Lakes All-Terrain Vehicle Club be read a first, second, and third time and passed, signed and sealed this 16th day of February 2021. Do we have any comments and questions on this bylaw before we vote on it? Karen,
How long of a term was our last bylaw?
This is a new bylaw with the Rideau Lakes ATV Club on a totally different road allowance section. We previously had one on, I believe it was Carroll Road, but this is to utilize the road allowance, which was in the Appendix A.
we did have, just to partially answer your question, Karen, and I'll go back to you. I remember a few years ago that council passed a resolution to allow ATVs on, I believe it was on county roads in Montague, but I'm not sure when that was. I kind of going along with your question, Karen. I did read the details of this report, Stephen, and I think it's talking about 5 years,
Right.
which is quite a long time. I guess I'll just throw this out to council to see what council thinks, but 5 years to me is a pretty long time as the first time we've entered into a bylaw with this club. And I'm wondering if it should be shorter, but I'll throw this out to council, but I'll first go back to you, Karen, and anyone else.
But didn't Rideau Lakes have another ATV club have another agreement with us? And I'm just wondering what the term of that bylaw was.
Yes, Stephen?
This was pretty well based off the same idea as the last one. I took pretty well a lot of things, keeping it the same, and in conversation with the board itself. And I believe it was in the 3 to 5. I can get back to you, Karen, with the actual time, but this agreement is with, as well with Rideau Lakes Walking Club, or the Recreation Club, on the current allowance is 5 years as well.
Yes, Karen?
I was just trying to think of consistency so that both agreements came back at the same time, for example.
Okay.
That was all.
Claus?
Thank you, Reeve. I have a question on number 9, the commercial general liability insurance for 10 million, Stephen? Is that standard?
That is, yeah, that they have from the father trail group that they're in.
Okay.
Stephen, I just have a question, not to do with the bylaw, but where do they, coming from the south, from Rideau Lakes, how and where do they enter into Montague?
So they come through into Merrickville through there, and they come up on the Appendix A. It shows you, I think, they go right over the bridge there. And then coming from, it would be the west, I guess is where it is. It comes through Carroll Road following the rail bed.
But how do they get from Carroll Road over to the rail bed?
Through an allowance with Drummond.
I see. Okay, thank you.
I'm not too familiar with where it goes beyond Montague. I was basing more on Montague, but
Yeah, I know. I'm just wondering because I know that there's been many discussions trying to connect the Cataraqui Trail to the OVRT Trail, and you know, I'm not sure that there ever was consensus on how to connect those two. Yes, Stephen?
yeah, so we are connecting, I believe it's 5 associations, and Montague is kind of that final piece to connect from Castleman to Renfrew to Thousand Islands. So it is a huge connecting link through there.
Okay, so I just, is council fine with the 5 years? Okay, I'm just I'll read this again and then we'll vote on it. That bylaw 3813/2021 being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with the Rideau Lakes All-Terrain Vehicle Club be read for second and third time and passed, signed and sealed this 16th day of February 2021. Seeing no further questions, all in favor? Okay, that's good. Thank you. And the next bylaw was moved by Karen Jennings and seconded by Jeff Carroll, that bylaw 3814 2021, being a bylaw to establish enabling policies in the official plan to allow secondary dwellings and secondary dwelling units in semi-detached dwellings, row house dwellings, and detached dwellings. Be read a first, second, and third time and passed, signed and sealed this 16th day of February 2021. All in favor?
Question,
Question, yeah?
sorry. On this secondary dwelling, that have we determined that we're going to allow mobile homes, trailer homes as a secondary dwelling? Because I got an email from a resident in the township that's very much opposed to that.
One resident.
One starts one, adds 2, 3, 4.
Yeah,
Then-
I think
I
it's,
personally have concerns on it myself, and I just got this email from Neil Coleman that was quite concerned. And here we are now passing and moving ahead with it. Because there was some discussion if they had to be on a foundation, do they depreciate, which they do? Do they meet the
Yep.
building code, which they don't? And so on and so on.
yeah, I think all of those questions were discussed in our last meeting with Forbes.
Yeah, I know.
And I guess the question that, the question, like, I'm not sure that everybody is understanding it correctly, but we talked about mobile homes as accessory dwellings, and we talked about standalone mobile homes as primary residences.
Yep.
I'm not 100% clear. If somebody can actually clarify that.
Well,
Are we allowing mobile homes as accessory dwellings? Or are we doing them also, allowing them also as primary dwellings? If somebody can answer me or clarify that for me, please. I'm going to go to you, Jeff, and then to Karen. I think, Jeff, you had your hand up first.
Either one, Karen, if you want to go for it, but yeah. I
Go
mean,
ahead.
Sorry, yeah, you're right. You're directing me. You're right. The primary was I think a pretty strong no, but as an accessory, as long as we're like, it was a good debate. But I mean, as far as putting it on the blocks and then hooking it up to services too as well. I mean, those are all those initial costs that, you know, we may not necessarily agree. And I mean, I know I don't necessarily think it's the best idea for somebody to do that. And I don't think it's the best financial one. And Forbes kind of solidified that. But we gave that option. If somebody wants to put a mobile home there and put it up on the blocks and then pay to have a septic into it and everything else, and they want to make that investment into it. I mean, they want to put their parents in there for as a small place that they can be close, then that was sort of acceptable. I mean, it kind of went against what Forbes said, but as far as it not being, it's an asset that's depreciating, which, I mean, the argument side that I say to that is that could be an advantage to the person that wants to put their parents in that, and they know it's like, I really need it there for the next 15 years. I don't need something that's going to be there forever. So I'm willing to invest in something like this. So I mean, I think that's where I understand that makes sense. We all read the concern from the resident, and I think that's a very valid concern. But like discussed in the meeting too as well, is because if they go junky or they look like they don't look good and everything else. I mean, we unfortunately have places in our township that are the standalone house is very questionable as far as the property standards. So I mean, it's hard to use that as the excuse of not to use it. So like as far as allowing it, yeah, I mean but I mean those are the limitations of the services and everything has to be that still has to be invested into it. I hope I kind of caught everything, Karen. If you want to fill in.
Yes, Karen.
I didn't remember a discussion about whether we're going to have it as primary, but definitely I remembered that as a secondary, yes. But what this that we're dealing with right now is just putting a secondary into our official plan. It's not
Yes.
actually discussing mobile, tiny home, or anything else. This is just saying we're opening up the official plan to allow for the secondary dwellings. So that's all
Yes.
that this component is right now.
Yeah.
Yes, and Claus?
So, thank you for the explanation, Karen, Councillor Karen, sorry. So then we will have a further discussion as to what we will accept as that secondary dwelling.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
separate, yes.
Yes.
Okay, that makes it a little clearer. I just know we talked a lot about mobile homes the last time, a lot, but if this is just saying we're going to allow secondary dwellings, and then we will have a discussion as to what that secondary dwelling will look like and how it's going to be whatever down the road. Okay.
Joanna?
I just thought maybe Carl wanted to weigh in on this. I thought I saw his hand.
Carl just arrived.
Yes, Carl?
Oh, thank you. Yes, just to further to Councillor Jennings. Yes, at this point, there's two bylaws that are being presented for council this evening. One is the official plan amendment, and that we don't actually have official plan policy right now that allows us to accommodate secondary dwellings outside of the granny suite provision, which is cumbersome and only temporary. So the OP policy does not get into what this is going to look like. It's just the broad, creating a few little wordings here and there that actually allow us to do that, and basically brings us in line with provincial policy. So the next one, that bylaw can't actually take effect. Procedurally, the official plan amendment needs to be approved by the county before the zoning bylaw can take effect. So both bylaws will be here and presented and can be adopted by council. But once the OPA goes to the county, gets approved by the upper tier, then the zoning bylaw can take effect once that comes in. But yes, the zoning bylaw, which is coming up next, that's where we get into the meat and potatoes of what you want to see. And I think just to highlight Reeve Dobson's comment, at this point, the policy wording that we've been directed to bring forward to council speaks to mobile homes just as accessory to a main dwelling. It's not the policy does not allow them as written does not allow them as a primary dwelling, and staff would respectfully suggest that's a bit of a different planning consideration, how we want to regulate primary dwellings that perhaps can be saved for when we open up the zoning bylaw following the official plan review. There's different planning things to look at this point, but the bylaw with respect to accessory dwellings focuses on those that are accessory to a main use. I hope that clarifies.
Yeah, thank you, Carl, for that. And just to let everybody know, the email that came out was on the weekend, and the one I got was sent. It says it was sent to you, Claus, with a copy to me. But to let everybody know, I did ask Joanna today to send it out to all of council, because I wasn't sure whether that email had got through to Forbes, Carl, or anybody else on council. So I just wanted everybody on council to know and see that letter or that email, because as you have seen it, to be fair to Neil and Debbie, I wanted it to be come to the agenda and discussed. And because they were opposing mobile homes on a lot or acreage as a principal home. And that kind of just got me thinking, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody was clear. So I think everybody's cleared it up, and I appreciate that. And so thank you to Neil and Debbie for sending this to us. And then I'm going to now go to the bylaw. And again, I'll just quickly read it. Moved by Karen Jennings, second by Jeff Carroll, that bylaw 38/14/2021 being a bylaw to establish enabling policies in the official plan to allow secondary dwellings and secondary dwelling units in semi-detached dwellings, row house dwellings, and detached dwellings be read a first, second, and third time and passed, signed and sealed the 16th day of February, 2021. No further comments. All in favor? Okay, that's all. That's been carried. Thank you. And the next bylaw was moved by Klaus Vandermeer, seconded by Ian Straight. That bylaw 3815, 2021, being a bylaw to amend, I should say, comprehensive zoning bylaw number 3478, 2015 of the Township of Montague, secondary dwellings, be read a first, second, and third time and passed, signed and sealed this 16th day of February, 2021. No further questions and comments. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Now, moving on, there are no motions and notices of motions. And the correspondence, under correspondence, the only item that was moved forward was 9M, and I just brought that forward at the beginning of the meeting. The reason I brought this forward, if everybody could, if you've read it, that was on the broadband program. And I just wanted to bring it forward to make sure that it was in front of us, so that I want to make sure that Montague gets its fair share of any funding, any programs, and so on when it comes to broadband. We all know that the connectivity issue is a priority for everywhere. Everywhere we go, it's one of the top priorities, from Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus to FCM to AMO. It's right at the top of the list, and it is for us too. But sometimes you read these things under correspondence, and if we don't bring it forward, then it kind of gets lost in the shuffle and falls through the cracks. And I don't want this to happen. So I'm not actually asking action to take place, except for, I guess, just to request you, Joanna, and our staff, anyone else, to look into this and possibly bring back a report on any broadband programs that we have, so that could come to a meeting. Joanna, I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you want to comment on that, please?
I just think there are several different programs that are happening right now that I've seen, and I have been in contact with the County of Lanark as well to see if we can sort of tag along with them on anything that might be occurring. So I'm keeping my eyes open, and I will bring them to your attention if and when I find information about things.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and if those programs could be kind of put on to our agenda, possibly as a report. I'd like to see them as a report, but if not, at least for correspondence, so that we can deal with it, because I just don't want any of these to fall through the cracks. Thanks for that. Jeff?
I love this conversation. Just to put in my kind of an extra 2 cents, I guess. I mean, there's a lot going on with this outside of, not to be critical of Enron and the slow process the government's kind of bringing in because the private side of it is really looking at a lot of options, and just to throw a few out there that we should even look at maybe too as well as municipality is Starlink is one right out of the gates, and that's actually run by SpaceX. If you don't know what SpaceX is, that's Elon Musk's obviously project. And he started Starlink doing satellites. He's already, and his goal is to put up like 5,000 satellites around the world. He's already done it, and it's being tested in Canada right now in very remote locations. And there's some places up north that are getting internet speeds that are about 100 megabits per second because of this. And right now in our area, you can even sign up for it too, as well, as they're looking to release it back out in our place. There's also Starlight too as well that TELUS is basically coming out with the same idea with the satellite side of it. And these are lower to earth satellites than the current satellites too as well, which is really, really cool. So it actually helps with the vegetation issues that we obviously have in rural communities. And they're talking about by 2023 having a lot of coverage going with that too as well. So I mean, we are going to see a lot of options, which is very exciting, I think, for people in Montague and rural areas in the next 2 to 3 years. But I'd also encourage us to be looking at some of those too as well, because it could be helping our office side of things and everything else. But Starlink is one right now that SpaceX is doing. And if you follow Elon Musk, you know, whatever he does, it ends up just being awesome. So I mean, it's I think that's something that this is very exciting for all of us in rural communities.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. So that's exactly why I wanted to just bring this forward, just have a brief discussion, because I just want this to be in the forefront. It's a priority for sure. So thank you. Before we recess, Christy or Joanna, do we have any questions from the, I guess I should have said we have no unfinished business and other business, and we will be going in camera, but before we recess, do we have any questions from the public?
I don't have any currently.
Okay, and Christy?
I don't think she does either. We
Okay.
had some questions previously earlier this afternoon, but I was able to speak with staff and answer those by email.
Perfect. Okay,
Question?
thank you then. Yes, Karen?
So were those questions relevant to our agenda tonight?
Yeah, they were related to, I can read them if you want. They were related to the secondary dwelling. And I can go over the answers. So the question was, if council approves mobile homes as a secondary unit, are they also going to approve them as a primary residence? And so we answered that one. You know, it's something that we'd be dealing with at a later date. And will the secondary unit require an additional blue emergency number? And the fire chief noted if they were within 30 meters of each other, they could maintain the same number. If they were going to be apart, then we'd give them like an A, B sort of, you know, the number, and then, you know, like 172A, 172B kind of thing. And then the other one was the email that everyone received that I forwarded around about the residents who are not in favor of mobile homes on a lot or acreage as a principal home, and that they didn't agree with the approval of accessory dwellings. So that was more a statement than a question.
Okay, thanks. Okay, then moving on, I do have a motion here. It was moved by Jeff Carroll and seconded by Karen Jennings, that council recess at 7:40. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. And we're going to be recessing we'll take a couple minutes to get changed over, and then we're going to be going to committee of the whole. And before we do that, did you have your hand? Did you want to ask a question first, Jeff?
Oh no, I was just saying 2 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I gotta go
so
put a
we'll
log
be
on
back
fire.
in 2 minutes, everybody.
Okay.
Thanks.
Has it been 2 minutes?
I didn't time it.
Oh, there we go.
2 minutes is up.
Exactly.
Remember the rule, what happens at 10 o'clock, eh?
Let's not make it to 10 o'clock tonight.
No, no, maybe 10 o'clock. I was up at 4:30. 10 o'clock would not be good.
Bye.
Okay, I think we have everybody assembled.
Yep.
So welcome back, everybody. We're going to begin our committee of the whole meeting. It's live streamed and electronically also, and this is Tuesday, February the 16th. The meeting is now opened, and I have a motion. It was moved by Karen Jennings and seconded by Jeff Carroll that the committee of the whole agenda dated February the 2nd, 2021 be approved. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Again, I'll remind all of council that if you have any disclosure of interest, you can declare it now or any time during the meeting. Claus?
I'll declare a conflict of interest on item 3D. At that time, I will leave the meeting completely and ask someone to call me when you reassemble.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Claus. We have no delegations tonight. The first report is going to be yours, Andrew. Andrew Hodge, our treasurer, and that's going to be on the donations. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you. Thanks very much. So yes, this report is on the 2021 donations update. And the recommendation of this report is that council chooses option A provided. Option A, I've listed as a status quo, which is to keep the amount of $6,000 for the miscellaneous donations account presented in the second draft of the 2021 budget. Just as a background, the Perth and Smiths Falls District Hospital had a delegation to council in December, and they asked for assistance in requesting $34,598 donation for their core capital program to support that, as they had presented in their delegation, which is an attachment to this report. And council decided at that time to discuss that request in relation to the 2021 budget at a future meeting. So that future meeting would be this evening. So one part of the question here might be if the request from the hospital meets and satisfies the criteria of a donation, or whether maybe it should be considered as a separate request altogether. So in that miscellaneous donation category, the total we budgeted at this point is $6,000. And also there are attached the other donation requests that were submitted to the township prior to the deadline in November, which currently equals a request sum of $3,400, which at that point, if those were all approved, would leave $2,600 for that budget line. So from there, the question would be, to meet the hospital's request, how would that be funded? So that would give you the option of either an increase in taxes or using an existing reserve. And I believe that'll be part of the discussion tonight. So I would say there's two steps in this. The first step is deciding how this would be put into the budget, in which way. And then later, the second decision will be how to allocate all those donations, which would be a future report to council, separate from this report that will happen at a later date after the budget's been approved by council, potentially at the March 2nd meeting. So you have a few attachments here. You have the Montague grant donation policy for reference, the delegation from the hospital, which was presented in December. The additional questions that council asked of the hospital were answered, and those are attached as well. And the other donation requests to the township are attached as well. So I believe at this point, what we'd be looking for is direction from council as how, from the three options presented, they would like to see it presented in the budget for the final approval.
Okay, going to open it up for questions, and Karen, you're first.
The first comment is, I think we need to let them know of our deadline for dealing with donations, since that's how this is being handled. And then the second is, I think we just leave it as our budget sits with the 6th, and we deal with their request in with the other donation requests.
I guess, Karen, to go along with what you're saying there, the deadline is already over.
No, but I think we need to let them know for future, sorry.
Yeah,
future.
yeah. So, but I'm just talking about for now.
Yeah.
Like the deadline is passed, but if we're going to be treating this as a separate entity, and possibly, you know, if we're going to be using it as an existing reserve, I realize and I agree that we have to let them know for next year. But
I did say,
Yeah, go
we'll
ahead.
include it as part of this year's donation with the other donations.
yeah, with an amount, with the full amount.
No,
So then,
with what we've got in our budget right now of the 6,000, we'll deal with all of them. Go through
yeah,
all
well,
of
I
them.
guess with the report here, it's there's a 20, you said $2,600 left over, right, Andrew?
Right, that would be if you, if council at that time of that report were to approve the full request of each of the applications, which council could decide to approve as a lesser amount or not at all for the other applicants, depending on what council decides at that time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, any other questions then? Claus, you had yes?
Yeah, first question is item C. I guess right at the very last statement, example of full amount requested put over a 2-year, a budget of 2 years.
Yes, I've seen that done other times and places where when a larger request is presented to a township, sometimes a council might decide to break it out into installments over time. The hospital may actually be requesting that full amount for multiple years, but it could be at council's discretion to decide how to handle that.
Okay. A follow-up, if I may, Reed?
Yes.
On item B then, with the hospital request, the amount from 2021 budget from a Pacific Reserve, do you have a reserve where that could handle that particular request?
I would, by looking at the reserve lists, I would say the general government reserve would probably be what I would look at first. And it would have more in that reserve than is the requested.
Okay, so that if we went that route, that would have no effect on our increase in taxes then?
Not to the direct tax levy for 2021, no.
Thank you.
And then, like, if that's what we were doing, then we have a choice. I guess you're giving us, under your options there, Andrew, of doing it over 1 year or 2 years. Is that correct?
If you were to choose option C, that would be a potential. That's if council has a different direction beyond option A or B. You might decide to choose an alternative.
Okay, I'm going to you next, Ian.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Jennings. I think we'll stay with the $6,000 for right now and disperse it among the people that have applied that met the deadline.
Are you suggesting that we give nothing to the hospital?
No.
Well, I think that we look at who's applied and we can make a judgment there, but I don't want to go over the $6,000. I don't want to add anything to the tax base. And I don't really want to pull anything out of reserves for it either.
Yeah, so I guess the option is, though, do we want to treat this as like a separate entity and not necessarily a donation? Can this be utilized in another way? I guess that's my question to council. Claus?
Thank you. I think we should deal with option A as a separate identity, and I agree the $6,000 should be used. Whoever's applied, we use that. There's money left over that just goes back in the reserves. We should deal with the option B and C as a separate identity, as a separate item, not to be confused with section A.
Can we do that, Andrew?
Sorry, just so I understand, you would want to use option A for the other donations and option B for the hospital? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm saying, can we agree upon option A and put that aside, and then deal with option B and C as a separate thing, or do we have to deal with all three of them in one go?
I was recommending you just choose option A as the final decision.
Okay, what happens with option B and C then?
If you chose A, then you would disregard B and C at that point. That's the recommendation.
No.
So
anyway,
so and Andrew, just so I'm clear on what you're saying, also, then, if we were to choose option A, then in your report, I guess you're saying that if we made the other donations, there would be $2,600, give or take, dollars left over, and we could decide to give that to the hospital,
right,
and nothing else.
Right, or you could decide to not donate to the other requests, which would leave you with a full $6,000 specifically to the hospital. That would be a decision that would be made after the budget's passed and that report comes back for you to receive. So really, this decision this evening is to decide what to present in the budget and whether you want to have the option in your budget to have that extra $35,000 roughly in the budget approved. And then at a later point, you could still decide whether or not you're going to support the hospital with that amount. That would be a second decision that comes.
So
back.
you're saying at a later point. I'm just wondering, like, why. I'm just throwing this out, like, why we would have to wait till a later point if we couldn't just decide now. Like, I don't have a problem with all of the other donations, and I also don't have a problem with using an existing reserve. It's not going to affect any tax increase this term, or this year. And my belief is there's nothing much more important an asset in your community as a good hospital. And this is the request. I go back a few years ago when the hospital came with a request when they were redeveloping it, and our request at the time was I believe it was $50,000, and it was put over 5 years, and we paid $10,000 each year towards the redevelopment of the hospital. But I'm not sure that. Well, I'm sure that the council of the day was certainly not looking at it as a regular donation like we would to Big Brothers Big Sisters or any other donation. But I would like to see us deal with all of the other donations separately and put it to the council whether we wish to wish to give money to the hospital as their request or not, and whether it be over 1 year or 2 years. I'm easy about that. But anyways, that's what I would like to see. But it's up to council for sure. So, Claus, I think you had your hand up, and then Karen.
Well, is it proper procedure right now to throw a motion on the floor?
I'm not sure. I guess we could ask. Maybe we could ask. Well, I see Andrew's hand up, and I was going to ask Joanna, but Andrew, there, you have your hand up.
Well, just wanted to explain, this is asking whether you would like capacity in your budget that you could approve the hospital, but you wouldn't be approving any donations until after the budget has passed, which will come at say March 2nd. So what I'm asking for tonight is just what I can add to the budget, if anything, for that next budget approval. And then you will approve donations at a future time.
Yes, Karen, and then back to Claus.
Because part of this discussion has to do with the funding of it coming out of reserve, it's not something that's essential for the passing of the budget, in my opinion, because we can always pull from a reserve to fund an expense throughout a year that wasn't budgeted anyway, just by council's direction. Because I'd like to have a further discussion on it, because I can't support that much money, whether it come from a reserve or not. I have some additional questions about what does the hospital do for their fundraising. I mean, I know that the province pays for the staff and stuff, but what does the hospital foundation themselves do to fundraise for some of these capital items versus just going to the tax base and asking us to pay for it? And so I think there's more questions to deal with that. So I'm not going to hold up the budget process. But again, if discussion goes around the reserve side, we don't have to hold up the budget. We can move forward. And then if consensus of council is that we'll give out a reserve.
You're cutting out, Karen.
If consensus
Karen,
of council
you're
then is
cutting
it goes out. If consensus of council,
Bill.
I think Bill's
Yes.
getting-
So can you just repeat that last sentence or two, Karen? We missed you.
if the consensus of council is to pull it out of reserve we could have a discussion at a further time, because I had some questions about additional financing of the hospital. Because I mean, they're saying that here's how they come up with how they weighted it, but what fundraising do they actually do as their own foundation for these capital items? So we could still move forward, because it is a reserve thing. We can move forward at any point in time.
Yeah, I think that I personally, I don't see any problem with that. We can go ahead and deal with all of the other donations tonight. And I guess, Andrew, just to make sure that I'm clear, I don't really think that we have to put this requested money into the budget right now, if we can make a decision in the next meeting or two, so that the questions can be answered that any council members have. It's already, as Karen just pointed out, there is already a reserve that we can draw on that's not going to affect the budget in any way. So do we have to put something aside in the budget tonight for that or not? That's the question to you, Andrew, and then I'll go to Joanna.
Okay, so based on that, then option A would be just to continue on the way things are, and then that would facilitate that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but I'll go to Joanna and then to Claus.
I was just going to say, you mentioned about going through and approving the donations tonight. And I believe Andrew just said we can't approve any donations tonight until the budget is passed. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Right. Okay, Claus?
Okay, thank you, Reeve. Go along with what we were just discussing, that we can set this aside and have a further discussion on it. In answer to Councillor Jennings' comment in regards to, we asked them how they come up with the request and so forth, and that's all we asked them for. So how did you come up with the numbers? We didn't ask them, what does the foundation raise? What does the hospital auxiliary raise, and so forth? We did not ask that question. And I have no problem in asking that question, because I know what they raise, okay? And I know they do quite well, probably more so in Perth than Smith Falls. But we have to understand too, last year they were under the gun of being able to raise any money without just sending letters out to people and say, please send us some money. They couldn't do any great amount of fundraising, an awful lot. But I have no problem asking that question. But I think we can go ahead with option A. And I would express again, I like the suggestion of option C to break it over 2 years. That way, as Andrew said, it doesn't deplete our reserve that much.
But that discussion then would come back to our
Right.
next meeting when we discuss it.
Yes, it would, Reeve. Yes, it would.
Okay, so then if we have no further questions now, I'm going to read the motion that we have in front of us. And if there's any changes, we can do that. This motion was moved by Ian Straight and seconded by Claus Vandermeer, that the committee of the whole receive the following report. That's the donations report, and that the following be recommended to council, that council direct staff to keep the amount of $6,000 for the account line 611-210-7645 miscellaneous donations as presented in the second draft 2021 budget. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. And the next, yes, Claus?
Sorry, if follow up, Reeve, if I may. Can we direct staff to ask that question? What do the fundraisers auxiliary the foundations? What have they raised? Because Councillor Jennings asked that
I don't
question.
think, yeah, personally, I don't see any problem with us asking that. We're going to have a discussion on this anyways. And so
Yeah.
there's no reason why we can't ask that question. I would suggest that maybe we give it a couple of days so that any council members can give Joanna any further questions, put them all together, send it back. When we send the letter to them, we can just let them know that the discussion will be coming back at a future meeting, and we have a few questions. I think it's as simple as that.
Okay, thank you.
I see you're nodding your head there, Karen. That's fine, I think, with you.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Do you hear it
we're
rattling?
Moving on then to the next meeting. No, it was those curls. I'm going to the next Public Works Manager, Stephen, your next report on the garbage tags.
Yeah, so I think the meeting on February 2nd, committee deferred the garbage tag report for additional information when it comes to policing of this operation. So staff reached out to other municipalities and did some research into our current contract as to what is in there for policing and what the contractor needs to do. So essentially, the contractor is obligated in the contract to bag and leave bags at the curb if they do not have a tag or don't meet the collectible items which they're to pick up. So essentially, that's what's supposed to be being done. Is it being done? I don't believe so. That's something that I'll have to address with our current contractor, make sure that operation's continuing. The next, I put in the report a couple of different options. One is about the sizing. So right now, I believe it's 40 pounds. So if we were to go down to a 33 pounds, 15 kilograms, or 50, sorry. This is, for reference, the size of a 2-cell cylinder block. So I think we can all agree it's quite a large amount of weight. I did my own little trial for the past month, weighing myself and weighing my garbage, and it averaged out to be 17 pounds per garbage bag. So it's definitely a doable thing. That's using dual stream recycling. And then Councillor Straight mentioned about how to police the sizing, and putting in an actual size would help with this. Right now, there's actually nothing in there that says somebody can't, using an industrial size, as long as it is 50 pounds, we can pick it up. The one option that we could do is having staff kind of monitor what's out there. Not ideal, as it's kind of time consuming to staff. I mean, we can monitor as we're doing our daily drives and stuff like that when coming in, and if we see something, we can tag. And then the next one, I posted a kind of a snapshot of what a recycling contractor uses, and they send us twice a day, daily reports on Excel, which detail exactly why something wasn't picked up. And we can track and see if this is a common issue with somebody, and this would be an asset wait per se, because then we can kind of address it with the homeowner and see if they need some additional information as to why it's not being collected and on that front. And then essentially, Councillor Jennings alluded to the fact that there has been people that have picked up tags, and this is correct. There has been numerous people pick up tags. So it would be, garbage tags would be something that we could look at implementing come 2022, a whole new system. And then an additional thing would be phase approach, which I think would be very smart. Is 2022, you go to 1 or 2 bags. 2023, we implement 1 bag, and we are doing exactly what the government wants us to do, is trying to teach recycling and trying to enforce proper recycling. And lastly, to sum it up, is the color of our garbage tags. For 20 plus years, we have been the fluorescent orange garbage bags. I know there's many people that I've spoke to, and they've never even tagged their garbage, and it's been picked up. So they have an accumulation of many tags, which, you know, if we increase garbage tag, they have that extra money there. So it's something to revisit, is the color of a tag, and we're talking large item disposal day, maybe bringing in a new color for that. So it just a recommendation, or sorry, a little bit of information I put in there is maybe to revisit that idea as well.
Yes, Ian?
Stephen, thank you very much. And I think that you rattled the tree, and I think there's some things that are falling out, and you're starting to see what they are. And I think you brought up multiple really good points, and I agree with what you're saying. The implementation of a new system for 2022 is a great way to go. And if we can figure out what it is that we need to do and encourage recycling and ensuring that the the correct number of bags are picked up and the size of the bags and everything else, I think we're well on our way. You know, if we look at the budget this year, we were roughly $20,000 over budget, and I think it's one of the things that we can probably have a significant effect on if we keep an eye on it. Thank you very much.
Cause?
Yeah, thanks, Reed. Yeah, also, Stephen, excellent report. I think you're headed down the right road. Just a suggestion in policing, you said, of having staff go, wouldn't that be something maybe that the summer students could do on a periodic basis? Just say they don't, not that they wouldn't have work to do some Friday afternoon or whatever, or Friday morning, go out and just take a little tour on certain roads and just check to see certain people have not tagged.
That's absolutely a possibility. We have lots lined up right now. Hopefully we get that grant. Hopefully summer students don't have one slow period with what we kind of have going forward, but I'll definitely keep that in mind if they as an option.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry, Councillor.
Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, not to reiterate what Councillor Straight said, but yeah, I think this is the right idea as far as where we want to phase it in. I mean, we have to do, if we're going to make a change, part of that is the change of the garbage tags. Is exactly what you nailed on, is the amount that, you know, haven't been used over the years and everything else. People not using tags on their garbage. I mean, I think we need to look at a switch, and I think what you're recommending is a great idea. Like we can get through this year. I mean, go into 2022 and have that 2-bag rule. And then limiting it down, and you know, we could probably keep the tags. I know Councillor Jennings had brought it up before, but when you switch tags, there's a you don't want it. People say, well, I have all these tags, and now now you're saying they're not useful anymore. But if we do it over, like, you know, if you have extra garbage in 2022, then you have your orange tags, and then 2023 we can start to phase out those or replace them by 2023 with the new tags. I mean, the argument side of people saying, well, I paid in my taxes. Well, we pay it every year for our taxes. If you accumulate it over the years, I mean, we don't want to have exactly what Councillor Straight just said. We're over 20 grand this year. I mean, there's some extenuating circumstances, obviously, because of the work from home. But I think that's the right approach as far as getting away from the garbage tags. And I also think, you know, if we're going to keep the large item drop off there, I still like the idea of doing the pickups and everything else at the home base. And we're going to see obviously some opportunity with that when recycling is going to go to the producer paid system. And we'll start to see some funding that we might be able to offer that service and still be saving money in the end too as well. So I like this. This is what we need to move forward. This is a big change for people. I mean, it's funny because it's garbage, but I mean, it's a big change, but we need to make this change. And I think you're on the right route now as far as how we're going to implement the change. So I hope we can get agreement from council to see the positive of doing this change.
So Stephen, just so that everybody's clear, at least so the public is clear that might be listening then also, the way moving forward then for the rest of this year, people put the tags on, and how many bags?
Right now, it'll be status quo as to what we've done in years past. There will be no change to 2021. When council goes
But
back
that-
to
yeah.
the limit, it'll be you tag it at curbside. No matter what it is, it has a tag, it gets picked up.
Yeah,
Right now,
but
we are.
di-
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Reed.
But for status quo right now, can you put out as many bags as you want as long as they have a tag on?
Yes.
As long as everything's tagged right now, you can put out 20 bags as long as there's 20 tags on them.
Okay. Jeff?
So I guess, I mean, now, I mean, we've done this, this sort of 3-bag rule until March 1st. And we kind of talked about it because we were wondering about when the offices were going to open up. See, now my worry is, okay, you have to get tags. Now we're going to have everybody wanting to come to the office, but we have a closed office. But now we're going to see that, I don't want to say the onslaught, but we're going to see a lot more people now. If we're going to say, okay, garbage tags are now for the rest of the year. Those people are going to need to come into the office and get their garbage tags. Along with, we have our bill payments too as well. I know this was discussed kind of in the other meeting, but now I'm concerned because we're going to have 1,000 people now coming to the office now in the next month and a half, looking to do this. So I mean, I defer that to Joanna, I guess, because how are we going to navigate this if we're, anyways, go.
Yes. So, yes, Joanna?
Sorry, I just want to say we are facilitating pickups. People aren't coming into the office. So we can, sort of meet the person outside the door and just pass the tickets out through the door. So we are still doing that. We're just not letting people in the office. So
Okay.
garbage tags are still being picked up.
Yes, Karen?
But what Jeff is saying is at the end of February, the free bags is gone and everybody has to use tags. So he's saying the office is going to be bombarded for March 1st so that the residents have their tags to be able to put their garbage out.
And people are still able to pick up their tags. But I mean, yeah, we'll discuss that certainly among staff and work through that. And I appreciate that concern. So we'll bring that up and talk about it.
Okay.
So
Thank you, everybody, for this. Jeff?
we got to continue on this. So are we going to say are we now making that decision as council too as well? Come March 1st, we are going back to the tag system. We're dropping a 3-bag limit. And we're going back to the tag system because we need to make that decision too, right? So is that what we're deciding?
Yeah, yes, Karen.
That was the decision we made originally, was that we would extend the 3 bags to the end of February.
Yep.
So since the province has opened us back up, except we're not open, I think we should still be maintaining for that March 1st.
Okay. And I'm for that too as well. So.
Okay, Joanna?
Yeah, I just want to be a little bit more clear. I have a little bit more information here, but yeah, people can call ahead and we take the garbage stickers and put it in the mailbox. So there is no contact, but people are able to get their garbage stickers. They are available.
Okay, I did see, Karen, you put your hand back up, and then to Jeff.
Well, I just wanted to comment about the report because I haven't done that yet. So do you want to go to Jeff first?
Sure. Yes, Jeff?
I was just gonna say, can we make sure, try to remember what the blurb says when on our website and our Facebook page, just making sure like, come get your garbage tags, but like, and we're not allowing people in the office, but this is how we're doing it, just so we have an extra line of communication. Because right now we have people that have showed up, I realize that, but the majority haven't because they've been told the office is closed and don't show up. So that's why. So anyways, we just make sure we have at least that worded. I just want to have as little amount of conflict really at the office as possible if we're going to open it up and we're expecting a lot of people coming to the office in the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, no, understood. And, I think, like I said, we haven't had any complaints, but point taken, and we'll make the necessary changes there to have that more clear and available.
Yeah, just to follow up, because I appreciate that, because I know the complaint side of it. Everybody was closed, so the complaint would be almost like a futile effort. The people are going to complain regardless sometimes, but they're not going to complain because they realize that we're closed, but so is Home Hardware. So now it's a bit of a different situation. So I just want to make sure we anyways, we tried that. But thank you, Joanna. I respect where you're going with this. So.
Okay, Karen, did you have anything else?
So just in reference to the report, from what I'm reading, it says that the contractor is supposed to actually be leaving anything that's not appropriately tagged and anything that's uncollectible. So I'm not sure why, because I think you said you're going to then get in touch with the contractor. So then staff wouldn't have to actually follow around to ensure that that's occurring. Is that correct, Steve?
That would be correct, Councillor Jennings. That's how it's worded in our current contract, is the onus is on the contractor.
Okay. And then in reference to the tags themselves, again, it comes back to there is a value to those. And I think those residents who have done their due diligence in eliminating additional waste, whether it be through the use of the recycling, composting, etc., shouldn't lose the value of those tags after a year. The orange tags, I think, has a value that should be able to stay with them, even by moving forward to different colors for those that have to purchase them, as well as those who are going to be buying ones for large item. But I think those that have done their due diligence should not be penalized by removing the quantity of the orange tags that they already have. That's all I have to say.
Hey, Jeff?
I respectfully disagree with Councillor Jennings. I think, I wholeheartedly understand where that comes from, but those are also a budgetary year by year thing. It's good that we do a rollover. I think some municipalities change their colors every year. They give out what they've done it in Ontario. I'm not saying locally. I'm saying there's been.
Yeah, Lanark County, they don't.
In the Lanark County, they don't. But I'm saying as a reference of other municipalities that do change their colors by year because of that, because they want to have it in their budgetary times. This is what's the budget for the garbage for this year. And I think if we give that 2-year window of saying this is what it's for, there's a lot of usage for those garbage tags in that time frame. And on the other side, if you have that many garbage tags in your repertoire, I'm assuming you're going to use you're going to continue to not put out that much garbage in the future. Anyways, but I think that's going to be a big discussion point. But I think there's got to be there can be a cutoff, and I think the emphasis will be on we give garbage tags for the budgetary year. It's great that we do rollovers, and I think it's it makes it easier as far as the administrative side goes, but it really is for the year. On the other note, I just want to make one point though on the uncollectible waste for Stephen is we talk about animal waste, and I'm thinking like the people that like I use Anne Arano as a very good example. They go walk their dog, they got to pick up the dog poop and all that kind of stuff. That goes in the garbage. So is that we don't want the farmers to put out their cow poop, but obviously the domestic animal waste. That's got to be acceptable, right?
It's kind of a vague area in there. I think what they're kind of referring to more in that is kind of decaying animals per se, you know what I mean? You can't get rid of animals in garbage, but it's something like people are going to get rid of, cat litter, for example, and dog waste as well. It's inevitable that it's going to happen.
Okay, I just don't want to send a mixed message to people about that, but okay, that's okay. Thank you.
I'll look into that, Councillor Carroll. I'll look into that and try and reword exactly in the phase. They'll make it kind of my thing to make sure it's very clear on what we're going to enforce come 2022 in our new system that we're going to have and make it black and white.
Awesome.
Karen?
A follow-up regarding the spreadsheet that the recycling contractor gives you, where it has notes and it says, for example, the person put out the wrong week. Does the contractor leave a note for the person that put it out wrong, or is it just left and then the person calls the municipality?
To my
Yes,
knowledge,
Steve.
it is left. Sorry, there's nothing left. It's more or less their garbage or their recycling was not picked up. And if
Yeah.
they call into the township, we have kind of this is why, but there's no standard program in effect with it.
Okay.
Claus?
To answer Councillor Jennings, I put the recycling out wrong. They left a nice little note. Sorry, sir, this is not the week for cans.
Okay.
And I still haven't got it right yet. What goes what week? I've called the office a couple times, but
Just
Okay.
put them both in a clause at the same time. It'll be
yeah,
guaranteed.
I know. Well, I know.
Where's your colored calendar?
I know, my wife's got it wrote down, paper and cardboard. I don't put that out because I use that to start the fire in the morning. So I just have to remember. every
Okay, then
second
we're
week.
going to move on. I think we've had a pretty good discussion. It's
Yeah, I
amazing
know.
how many times we discuss garbage and garbage tags, but
I
we're
know,
going to
'cause
get it straight in 2022, thanks to Stephen.
there's money in garbage.
So we have a motion here was moved by Ian Straight and seconded by Klaus Vandermeer that Committee of the Whole receive the garbage tags report and that the following be recommended to council, that council direct staff to communicate with the current contractor with respect to determining waste that is considered uncollectible and to complete recommended policing options. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Thank you for this one, Stephen. And moving on to the next report, and that's yours also, Stephen, on the Al Maloney Road.
Thank you, Reid. So the regular meeting of council on February 2nd, deferred resolution 29, 2021 for additional information, particularly to Ella Maloney. Staff has been awaiting this lawyer advice for a long time. So we finally, on Wednesday, the 10th, we received information regarding Ella Maloney. Professional advice basically stated that we are exposed because we have completed maintenance previously and supported severances in earlier years, which stated that it was a maintained roadway by the municipality. After receiving this information, it pretty well dictates that Ella Maloney Road should be classified as a 6B and be maintained year round. And as per my report earlier on January 19th, the estimated cost to bring it up to the 6 meter wide would be $150,000. That being said, it would be proposed that the works could be completed as kind of an as needed, as we discussed earlier. Item one would be obviously proper signage, make sure there's no liability for the municipality if somebody goes down there, just making sure, dead end signs are up and everything is in place that way. Second would be, like we previously mentioned, about putting some money into the turnaround, make sure it's adequate. That's something that could be completed by staff. We're going to have a very busy construction season this year, but we will be able to get sometime in 2021 to complete that if it's something council would like to be completed. And then I've kind of figured to just kind of laid out a very rough schedule of when things can be completed. And it's more or less on the discretion of council and how much budgetary monies they want to put away in a certain road. And that's basically the report.
So I guess the good news coming out of this would be that that this can be done over several years. And how many several years is it, I guess, is up to council. Jeff?
Well, this one pains me because it's once again, it's pouring money into something that's not being used, which is unfortunate. And I wonder, and we have another road that we declassified or we're not using, as in Lawrence Street, that I'm concerned about if we go ahead with putting money into this. And I guess my question is there any way a municipality can declassify a road or make it private or I don't want to say disown a road, but I mean like, but along those ways of sort of walking away from a road or putting it back into the people that own the land on both sides of the road, like, or making it private. Anyways, all those kind of questions. Is there a way to do that to a road, Stephen? Do you know of?
Joe might have to help me with this one, but I would believe it would have to be a sale of the road to the residents. And I believe it'd be a pretty big process, but correct me if I'm wrong, Joe. You might have more information on that.
Yeah, I don't have a lot more. It's something I think we'd have to look into, but I think it would be something like a road closure and you'd sell the land to each individual property owner. The other suggestion, and I would have to look into exactly how it's implemented. But I know I have in the past done limited services agreements where people on the road, are allowed building permits or are allowed to do specific things on the road, but they are required to sign an agreement that recognizes that they have limited services, that they are in some cases responsible for it's almost, it's usually used on a private road. But yeah, we'd have to look a little bit more into it, but I think there may be a way to do some of that stuff, but it would take some digging on staff's behalf to see what exactly is possible.
I think that that would make for a very good and fruitful conversation at a future meeting. And I don't believe that we should get into that discussion right now because it's really it's not going along with it's not coinciding with this this resolution. But to answer your question, Jeff, it's a great comment, but I really feel that that staff would need to be able to look into this, come back, bring us reports, and have a really good discussion, not just on this road, but any road. And I think I'd like to also just comment, Jeff, to kind of respectfully disagree with your first comment. You did say that this road is not being used. It's definitely being used. Many people use it. There's land on this road that people are farming. They're cutting wood. There's hunt cabins. There's a house. So it is being used, just to be clear. Jeff?
And Reeve, I appreciate that because I will stand back on that one for sure. I don't mean to say that it's not being used at all. I mean, I know there is some use to it. That's why we're talking about this road too as well. The part of it that, and this is why I want this to be looked at more, and this can definitely be a conversation down the road for sure. It's just, it's a road that there's no residents. There is a summertime residence. I realize that there, but it's just one of those ones where we have very limited demands as a township. And that's why I reiterate that point. Resources, limited resources. And, to put money to do this, it really takes away from those roads that, that really need it, that have very high traffic counts. So I'll leave it at that. But because I thank Stephen for the work that he did on it. But I will always starkly oppose the amount of funds that need to go into this road.
Yeah, and just to comment also to go along with that, Jeff, I guess if you look at, I don't know how many roads we have, but, we've got lots of roads that have 50 people on them and we've got other roads that have 3 people on them. So do we start making differences between them? But again, I guess that would certainly be involved in a future discussion. So it would make for a very good meeting, I think.
It would, and a lot of those roads that have few people on them are very connecting roads too as well. So it's but it is a big part of the discussion. So I think
yeah, they're connecting roads and others are dead end roads.
So
yeah. Okay, thanks everybody for this one. We have a motion here.
Bill, Ian has.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Karen.
Ian has his hand up.
And Ian. Oh, sorry, Ian.
Right. That's all right. Thanks, Karen. I guess my only, Stephen, thanks for the report. And you just kind of sit on the edge of understanding what everybody's saying here. I kind of agree with Reeve Dobson's saying, and I kind of agree with Jeff, what Councillor Carroll's saying. I don't think there's anybody right at this present second that's asking us to spend $155,000 on a
No.
road. And I think that we need to put this in context and only do what it is that the people are asking for. If somebody comes to us and asks for more, then it needs to come, then I would, ask staff to bring it back to council. But right now, making it so that we can, pass down with the grader, turn it around and come back out in the summer and the same thing in the winter is fine by me. And from my understanding, fine by everybody that I've spoken to in regards to Ellen Maloney Road. So I don't want to think that we need to go and sink $150,000 into it that we may not need to actually do.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Ian. And I think that, Stephen made a most important comment, and that is the priority will be to put the proper signs up for safety, and we'll move on. So great comments. Okay, we do have a motion here. It was moved by Jeff Carroll and seconded by Karen Jennings that the Committee of the Whole receive the Ellen Maloney Road report, and that the following be recommended to council: that council receive Ellen Maloney Road legal advice for information purposes. All in favor? That opposed? Okay, that is carried. Thank you. Moving on, the next
Reeve,
is 3D. Yes, Claus?
give me a moment to sign off, please, and Joanna, you'll call me.
Okay. And Joanna, will you call Claus back when we're finished?
Yes, I will.
Does he have to hang up?
I think he already has.
He could have just muted himself. Anyways, whatever.
Okay, so this report is yours, Joanna. Thanks.
Okay, so I was just going through some of the contracts that are coming up to expire, and one of them was the custodian services contract, which was signed with Mr. Vandermeer. It's set to expire April 30th, and so basically I've made the recommendation that we draft an RFT for review and approval by council, so we can issue that RFT and start accepting bids on it. As we were going through this, I spoke with the Deputy Reeve just about the background, the history of this sort of stuff, and he noted that because we are in a COVID situation, he was saying that he would be willing to extend the contract for a year, and that he'd be willing to provide services at the same cost that he is currently charging for this year, and then just as sort of an offer, so people wouldn't have to be coming into the offices and through the offices. We wouldn't have to be quite so concerned about the health and safety risks. I do believe that we could probably have a system in place for people to either come in, or we could provide a video of the building to people looking to tender. But he did offer, he did make that offer, so I wanted to bring that forward. And he did also note that, in fact, I believe he stated, and I don't have him here to correct me, but I believe he stated the current contract is $600 a month, and when he did some calculations, he's actually losing about $30 a month on cleaning the buildings. He's just trying to provide as he stated, a service to the town, and he's looking out for the taxpayer in that respect. So, anyways, my recommendation is still that we go ahead to draft the RFT, and that Mr. Vandermeer is certainly able to apply when that tenure becomes available. That's essentially the report. If there's any questions?
Karen.
Good report. A question though, it's relevant in that I think we need to look at putting it out to tender. But at the same time, I'd like council to consider having Joanna bring us a report about all the contracts that we've got with renewal dates, just at another meeting so that we could review those on a timely basis as well. But I agree. I think that we have some processes that can be done to ensure that tenders are done safely with masks, sanitizers, maintaining social distance, and if nothing else, then doing video. So I think that there is the ability to do it. One other further though is it just for the municipal office on Roger Stevens, or does it also include Rosedale Hall?
I will go open that up. It's the admin building and the fire and the public works building. I meant to check that before and I had.
I
forgotten.
don't think it includes Rosedale Hall because
I
when we
don't think it does.
when we did those changes where the fire association was going to be looking after I think some of the events there. I thought that they were going to be looking after that. I could be wrong, but I think at that point, maybe Claus's contract was not in place. I'm not sure of that. We should check that out.
Yeah,
Yes.
sure. I'm opening it here right now.
Yeah, Karen.
I understood when there was a bar rental that the firefighters were involved because they were running the bar. But if there's no bar rental, somebody's still doing the cleaning, and I didn't believe it was the fire, but I could be wrong. I thought it was the contract that was there was to be a as needed contract issued is what I thought.
Yeah. Yes, Joanna.
The contract here from 2017 says the following township Montague facilities are subject to this contract: the administrative building, fire association hall, and public works garage. That's what's listed. So unless there was, that's what's listed in this contract.
Can you list that again, please, Joanna? I just didn't hear the first.
Municipal administrative building, fire association hall, public works garage is what's listed in the contract.
Yeah. And I think that's the contract I believe that we're looking at right on with this resolution. But Karen?
Yes, this one too. This one is, but I seem to recall that at the time we had two, because one was on an as needed that somebody I think is being paid to do the as needed. But I see Ian's hand up.
It's a very good question. It's definitely something that we should look into it, because I you know, when the Rosedale Hall was closed, then we obviously didn't need it, but it's going to open up again. So where's it at? Yeah, maybe Ian can help us. Ian, please.
Yeah, Councillor Jennings is correct. To the best of my knowledge right now, it's the fire association does after an event that they've hosted only. And
you're cutting out, Ian. Sorry.
So
Ian.
to the best of my knowledge,
cutting out. You're cutting out, Ian.
All right. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Just repeat what you said.
To the best of my knowledge, the fire association cleans up after an event that they have hosted only, and that the janitorial contract, which I believe is held by Claus, he would clean up the Rosedale Hall other than any other events or on a continuous basis.
Thanks, Ian. I think that we have to look into this separately. I think we have to just deal with this resolution for the three buildings up at the administration building and the fire hall and the public works. And we'll have to, my opinion is that we'd have to check with Claus and see where it's at with the other. I'm not sure. He may have been charged. Maybe Andrew can help us, because he may have been just charging us on a sort of on a job basis, a one-time job basis. I don't know, but I think that we can. He will know, and he can help us there, and then we'll probably have to bring another motion back for the rest of it for the Rosedale Hall. Yes, Ian.
I think that it's, I think we need to definitely look at that, and I highly agree with Councillor Jennings in regards to the tendering process. I think that's something we need to do to ensure that we're transparent about what's going on. But I think that the other piece is that, you know, we need to look at the Rosedale Hall, because the bigger the piece of pie, the more people that are interested, and, you know, the maybe the better value you get. So.
Okay, seeing no other questions, then I have a motion here, was moved by Ian Straight and seconded by Karen Jennings, that the committee of the whole received the office cleaning contract renewal report. And I guess, is it good enough for us just to say office cleaning, or should we be adding the fire hall and public works?
Yeah, we can add that.
Okay, so I will just add it here, and then if I have to sign a new one, I will, Joanna. So I'm just going to add this here.
So, Reeve?
Yes, Ian?
So, Joanna, are you going to look at the Rosedale Hall contract as well?
Yeah, I guess I already was sort of just starting. I'm just in the beginning process of looking up all of the various contracts to see what ones are coming up, so we can get them sort of looked after. But I hadn't, and I was just looking as you guys were talking as well, I hadn't been able to find anything specifically written down for Rosedale Hall. But I get the sense that just as you say, it's the fire association cleaning after like with the bar use. And I believe, I don't see it anywhere in the contract, but I believe Claus is doing it on an as needed basis is sort of what my understanding is, but I don't have anything in writing about it. So definitely something that we need to look through and sort through, and I'll bring up various contracts as they come up.
Okay, and then also, and that the following be recommended to council, that an RFP be drafted for review and approval by council to be brought forward for review and issuance. Seeing no further questions, all in favor? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. So can you phone Claus, please, Joanna?
Yeah.
And we're going to move on here. We have no yes, Karen.
Sorry, as part of that discussion, I had inquired about having Joanna bring back a list of all the contracts with renewal dates. Is it okay to get council consensus for her to do that?
Oh, I think we should. Yes, thanks. So I do have yours. And Ian?
Yep.
Jeff?
Yep.
And is Claus with us yet?
No.
Not yet.
I'll also agree there. So we do have consensus for you to bring back all of the contract that is coming up. Joanna, that's just staff direction. So if we could put that into the agenda or into the minutes, thanks. Thanks, Karen. And I'll just give Claus a minute here.
He'll have to rejoin totally with Christy letting him in, will he not?
We don't really need him for the
Yeah.
finish this part.
I'll just go on then, because we have no reports of committees, no petitions, motions, and notice of motions, no unfinished and other business. And he'll still come back on. I do have a motion here. It was moved by, before we do adjourn, I should ask either Christy or Joanna if we have any questions from the public.
Yeah, you're going to hear a barking dog here in a minute, but yes, we do have one.
Is the question from the dog or?
It's quite possible. Hold on, I have to get back here. Okay, so the question was, the Township of Montague's policy on municipal grants and donations should state that no grants be supplied to any group that has applied to Lanark County Council for grant or donation, as this would be double dipping to the Montague taxpayers. I would like council to consider making this change to the township policy.
So that's just a question. I think that's just a comment.
It's a statement, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Jeff?
I do want to, I mean, just make a little bit of a point to that, because my understanding too as well with, I mean, this is obviously towards the hospital. The hospital made an original donation request to the municipalities, and then they went to the county and asked for money, but they took the money off of what the original ask was from the municipalities to make it less so the county could support that, because our original one from last year was higher. But then the county, when they went to the county and asked for it, it reduced ours. So it wasn't a double dipping. It was a way to get the county to chip in to reduce the municipality's contribution amount. So just to clarify that, just so, and if I miss anything, I'm sure Councillor Jennings can fill in a little bit too as well. I just want to make sure I answer that question, so.
Yes, Karen?
It might not necessarily reflect just on the hospital, but other organizations that could be requesting funds from the municipality.
But I guess my opinion, without giving it a lot of thought, would be that if we agreed with this comment, then that means that we, like in Montague, would not give any money to Big Brothers Big Sisters, because I know that Big Brothers Big Sisters gets help through, I think it's through a United Way, which gets help from the county. So, you know, it's sort of intertwined there. Claus, and then to Jeff.
Yeah, I just want to back up Councillor Carroll's comment, and that was discussed and it was ironed out that the adjustments were made so it wouldn't look like it was double dipping. And I don't feel that it is double dipping, to be honest with you. Is there any other organization, Joanna, that does receive money from the county and is asking money from us?
Not that I know of, without looking specifically at the.
I haven't heard
any
anybody.
paperwork. I couldn't answer that question, honestly. I don't know.
Thanks.
Yes, Jeff?
I guess my last little point is, like, I mean, for donations, good for anybody for asking at any point for donations. It's us to us at that point to say yes, yay or nay. But I mean, good for anybody to ask for those donations, in my opinion. I mean, and then we can discuss it. So that's where I think so.
Karen?
Along that line though, because it did come to light for me, is that I think we need to look at it to say, perhaps the organizations that are asking for donations do need to also provide how they offset, like what fundraising they do, what revenues they receive, so that there's a better understanding as well. Because I don't think that's something that we're receiving. We're receiving requests saying we'd like this money, but I don't think we're understanding the full financials of these organizations that are asking for funding.
Yep. Okay, then no other questions or comments? Okay, then we're moving on. I have a motion moved by Claus Vandermeer and second by Ian Straight that the committee of the whole meeting do now adjourn at 8:53. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And I'm going to go, does anybody need a 2-minute break, or can we go right into our next, or in camera?
1 minute
I
break.
had my break.
Pardon?
I had my break.
Jeff asked
Jeff?
for 1 minute.
I can do
Okay.
I can do my break. Well, they switch over to the host and all that kind of stuff too as well, though. So
Okay, is that, I'll give you, we'll take 1 minute.
okay.
Okay, Karen?
Yep.
Okay. You wanted a little break,
Jeff did.
Karen?
No, just
Pardon?
Jeff.
Oh, okay,
Jeff.
okay, okay.
I will
I'm
check the
good.
fire.
Oh, I forgot to set my timer for the minute.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's go.
Oh, sure.
Just waiting on Ian there for a sec.
We lost Ian.
Okay, so Ian's back. We're going to go on. I have a motion. It was moved by Klaus Vandermeer and seconded by Ian Straight that council reconvene at 8:56. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
Are we, Bill, sorry, are we reconvening or do we not have to go in camera?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to,
Board first.
we just reconvened and now I have to read this motion and eventually we'll be in camera.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, that's okay. I can still go ahead, I think, and read this first motion though. It was moved by Karen Jennings, seconded by Jeff Carroll, that this meeting, that this council moves in camera at 8:57 as per S 239 of the Municipal Act S0/2001 C25 in order to address the following two items: the security of the property of the municipality or local board, and a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board. More specifically, security of property and intermunicipal agreements. All in favor? Okay, and that's carried. So we're